Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Repeat Ron, and today we're going to be doing a little bit of a different video. Today I figured it'd be fun to do the top 10 worst weapons in Killing Floor 2. I'll also be doing a top 10 best weapons in Killing Floor 2 because I get this question pretty frequently whenever I stream, or whenever I'm just making videos about different classes and stuff like that as to which weapons I think would be the worst for them, which weapons do I think would be the best. Now some of these weapons that I have on here aren't necessarily bad, but they have some issue, or they're very specific to a certain situation where they excel at. So keep that in mind. These also aren't in a particular order, so I'm just going to go through them. These are the 10 that I figured were probably the worst in my opinion, and I'm going to be kind of talking about them. So up first, at number 10, we've got the minigun, and the minigun just is kind of lackluster. It does have a high rate of fire. Well, it does do okay damage compared to like other assault rifles and stuff. It holds a lot of bullets, kind of, at least with the ammo perks, it can hold a lot of bullets. But overall, there's not really a reason to take it, especially on Commando. And that's what this is specifically for. On Survivalist, that's kind of different because Survivalist does have the extra weight, so they could take the minigun if they want. Whereas with Commando, you only have 5 weight left after that, so you're stuck with either the AR-15 if you want to stay on perk, or the bullpup, neither of which are way great. So the minigun just gets here because it's simply not that usable. If you want something like this for Commando, you have the Stoner. The Stoner's a better option for dealing with most things simply because its weight is only 9. So you can take something like the M16 and actually have a pretty good gun with it. Coming in at number 9, we have the HRG Tommy Boom. This weapon, again, isn't necessarily bad. It's just, it doesn't do as much as I would have hoped it would. It doesn't really scale all that well just because of the weight that it goes up to. If you want to upgrade it all the way, it goes up to 10 weight, which just isn't good. Its rate of fire is okay, ammo is okay, it does good damage towards small enemies, even medium and large enemies to some extent, like flesh pounds, but you still have better options with demo when you want to take the Tommy Boom. Again, this is an okay weapon on Survivalist, and it can be an okay weapon on demo, and it can be a really fun weapon on demo if you have a Commando that's extending Z time for a very long time and you get a ton of nukes out. Then yeah, it's super fun if you're using Destroyer of Worlds with it, with like a Commando. Then it can actually be pretty useful. But that's a decent amount of steps. Plus you could kind of do that pretty much the same with most of your weapons if you have a Commando that's extending Z time. At number 8, we have another demo weapon. This is the M32 grenade launcher. Again, this weapon isn't really bad. It's just that it's heavy and it's expensive. It's good for killing crowds. You can kill flesh pounds pretty quick with it, but it's got such a slow reload with it that it's just annoying to constantly be trying to reload the gun, and then you shoot out all the shots in like half the time that it takes to reload the actual gun. It is really fun with Destroyer of Worlds because you can, again, blow it up, and it is a super fun weapon. It's also pretty good on Survivalist because you have the extra weight. On demo, not so much. It's just not super great on them. At number 7, we have the Mine Reconstructor. This is a weapon that recently got buffed, and it is much better than it was. It's also really good on holdout maps, especially with a coordinated team, because you can set up a bunch of mines behind the team, and then whenever your teammates get beat up, they can go back there and heal, no problem. Medic doesn't even need to take their eyes off of the front lines. You can pair this with something like the heal thrower, and you're good to go. But in other large maps, if you're playing this on every map, it just doesn't work out that well. It's not good on big open maps. Unless you're just putting these at Z spawns, and at that point, you could do the same thing with like C4 or the Seal Squeal or something like that with demo and get better results. You could even probably get better results with something like the Thermite Bore or the Dragon's Breath on Medic if you wanted to take that just for that job. It would be awkward and kind of weird to do that with, but you could do it if you really wanted to. So the Mine Reconstructor is just very situationally good or bad depending on what situation you're in or what map you're playing in. Number 6 are the dual HRG buckshots for support. These weapons just aren't way great. They are fun to use. I really enjoy using them, but they don't really scale all that well. You have way better options for a tier 3 if you want to take something like that. You have so many good options with support that this is just probably the weakest option, and it's not worth the investment to upgrade these either because they're just expensive and they don't get that much stronger. So that's why they just kind of end up here. One of them is really good though. If you take one early on or one in any sort of loadout with support just for that extra gun that you might need, then it's really good. But having 2 of them and upgrading them, it's just not worth it. At number 5, we have the MP5 for Swat. This weapon is a weapon that just doesn't do a whole lot for SWAT. It doesn't have great sights, it has an okay rate of fire, it does okay damage, it doesn't scale all that well. It's mostly competing with the tier 1 weapon that SWAT has, which is the MP7, and the MP7 is an amazing gun early on, and it works really well for the first couple rounds. You can destroy absolutely everything with SWAT, no problem with just the MP7, and then go right into a tier 3 or right into a tier 4, or maybe even save up for a tier 5 weapon with SWAT. You don't need to go for either of the tier 2 weapons. You could throw the Tommy gun in here too, because the Tommy gun is pretty lacking on SWAT as well, just because your tier 1 is so strong and you're probably not going to bother buying either of these. That it's kind of a filler spot there that's already not a fantastic weapon. Number 4 is the 1911s for Gunslinger. Now the 1911s are actually not bad. I like using them, but they are kind of lacking compared to other guns that Gunslinger has access to. And it's not even that much of a difference. The 1858s are arguably better or worse than the 1911s, so there is an argument to be made there. Same with, you could argue the 1911s are better in most circumstances than like the Winter Bites or the Spitfires. But if you wanted to go with a good tier 2 for Gunslinger, your best option is actually just buying one gun of any of the other sorts. You could buy one Glock, one Deagle, one 500, or buy the Centerfire. All of those are better tier 2 options. At least with the Winter Bites and the Spitfires, they have some other gimmick to go with them. You can either freeze or you can burn enemies. So that's why they're not here, and the 1911s are. And also the 1911s don't scale incredibly well with upgrades, but they do scale all right. They're an okay gun overall. It's on Gunslinger that has a lot of amazing guns, so that's why they're here. Number 3 is the AR-15. This is probably one of the worst weapons in the entire game. It's definitely the worst starting weapon out of any of the classes, I would say, unless you're playing like Survivalist and you happen to get the cock and burn, and then, okay, that's worse, but not by a whole lot. The AR-15 is it's so bad in so many ways. It has bad iron sights. It either has 3-round burst or it's semi-auto, which semi-auto is okay, but 3-round burst is pretty bad with a 20-round magazine. If you want to upgrade this weapon all the way, it goes up to 8 weight for only 60 damage a shot, and it's still either semi-auto or burst fire with a 20-round magazine. There's no point in throwing upgrades into it. The only reason you see it is because Commando's pretty much stuck with it. Coming in at number 2 is the pulverizer for Demo. Now the pulverizer for Survivalist and the pulverizer for Berserker is actually really good. It's a pretty solid all-around weapon, but for Demo, it's definitely bottom of the barrel. You don't want to be getting that close to enemies with Demo, who is a very squishy class. Now, you can do a lot of damage with the pulverizer, and there is one circumstance where this weapon is pretty good, and that's if you know that you're going to be fighting the King Fleshpound. Then it's a really strong weapon because you can block and parry with it and potentially hit him with it if you run out of bullets with whatever your main gun is. But outside of that specific circumstance, it's pretty awful. At most, you're just going to use it to block and parry and maybe to hit 1 quarter pound or something to one-shot him. That seems like a lot of effort just to have one weapon. As well as it's a tier 3 weapon, you could get the Kaboom Stick for the exact same weight and it's a little bit cheaper. You could get the M16 and I think it's the same price and it's a whole lot better. You just have so many better options than the pulverizer for Demo, so there's no real reason to take it. And then our number 1 spot goes to the Road Redeemer. The Road Redeemer is exactly the same as the Katana, which is already a pretty lackluster weapon on Berserker. The Katana used to be pretty good at one point, but now it's not. It fell off pretty hard, especially after the Hemoclobber came out. The Road Redeemer came out, I think, after the Hemoclobber came out, and it's got a similar attack pattern, but it has pretty much the same exact stats of the Katana, but it does blunt damage, which is slightly better. The main problem with all this is that you have to buy a separate game in order to get it. You could say that about the Zweihander too, but at least the Zweihander has different stats, and the Zweihander is actually good. So that's why the Road Redeemer gets on this spot, because it's pretty much just a reskin of a weapon that's already pretty bad, and it's just such a redundant weapon that we don't really need it in the game. So these are my opinions on the worst weapons. What would I do to change some of these? The minigun, drop the weight, and give it more ammo. Just maybe give it the entire magazine, like it just has all the bullets in a clip or something. It would actually be okay then. Tommy Boom, drop the weight, or maybe like drop the fire rate even more, but have a much higher damage per shot, and maybe a bigger magazine or something. M32, just up the reload speed, and then would actually be okay. The Mine Reconstructor, I don't really know how you would actually buff that thing. to make it good in every circumstance. I think it's okay where it is. It's just that it's very situationally good. The buckshots, I'm not sure. You'd have to give them something else. Give them like a tighter spread. Give them a bit more damage. Maybe lower their weight. Then they might be good. MP5 just either needs to be rehulled or something, because it needs to have something more than the MP7. So that's kind of a weird one. 1911s, just give them a little bit more damage and give them higher scaling. I think they'd be fine then. AR-15, let it be full auto and maybe give it a red dot or something. Then it would actually be good. Pulverizer on demo, I don't think there's any changing that, because it's a good weapon on the other classes. It's just really bad that it's a demo weapon. And Road Redeemer, make it different than the katana. Those would be all my suggestions. Tell me what your worst weapons are down in the comments below, or your least favorite weapons in Killing Floor 2. Maybe I'll do a list like that too. This has been a lot of fun. I hope you guys enjoyed it. I will be doing a best of Killing Floor 2 weapons as well. That should be out sometime. I'm not sure when. But thanks everybody for joining me. I really do appreciate it. If you'd like to see my other stuff, be sure that you get subscribed. That way you get notifications whenever I post these. Special thanks to the members of this channel and my patrons over on Patreon. They get early access to videos like this. If you'd like to be a part of that, there are links down in the description. Remember to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Bye-bye!